7 signs your multidimensional vibration confirms you're a bridge chosen one. There's something almost unexplainable about the way you experience reality. You've always felt it like you're living in multiple worlds at once. Part of you is grounded here, navigating the dense reality of Earth, jobs, relationships, responsibilities. But another part of you, it's somewhere beyond. You feel things others don't. You receive insights that don't come from books. You sense timelines, energies, and emotions that don't belong to you. And sometimes you wonder, am I imagining this? But deep down, you've always known. You're not just here to live, you're here to bridge. You are what I call a bridge chosen one, someone whose sole mission is to carry multidimensional awareness into a world still waking up to its own truth. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is real, raw, and sacred. And your vibration, it's not linear. It stretches across dimensions. It speaks the language of the ancient and the future. You don't just exist in this timeline, you anchor timelines, collapse outdated ones, and birth new ones through your choices. You are a vibrational architect, a frequency holder. And the reason your life has felt so intense, so misunderstood, so otherworldly is because you're coded differently.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's get real. We're living in a time of massive frequency shifts. Systems are collapsing. Identities are unraveling. Old truths are shattering. And in the midst of all this chaos, there are people like you quietly holding the line between realms. You're the ones who walk between the veils, who feel the pain of the world and still choose to love. You're not here to escape reality, you're here to transmute it. You don't bypass shadow, you walk through it with grace. And because of that, your vibration doesn't just reflect light, it creates it. But how do you know you're a bridge chosen one? It's not written in your birth certificate. There's no official initiation. Instead, the signs show up in your life, your body, your relationships, your dreams. One of the first signs is the constant feeling that you don't fully belong anywhere. You can be in a crowded room and still feel alone. Not because you're broken, but because your frequency is tuned to something higher. You're always scanning for truth, authenticity, depth, and most of what you see feels shallow, like a performance. You crave soul, you crave substance, and when you can't find it, you go within. Another sign is that your energy affects others in ways they can't explain. Just your presence can activate someone. They might start crying around you for no reason, or suddenly confess something they've never told anyone. You didn't ask for this. You didn't try to counsel them. But your vibration, your multidimensional field, reminds them of who they really are. It stirs their soul. And even if their ego resists it, something inside them begins to shift. Do you realize what kind of power that is? You are literally a walking portal. And then there's the physical side. Your body is sensitive, sometimes overwhelmingly so. You might feel exhausted in crowds, overstimulated by noise, or even physically ill when you're around certain people. That's not weakness, that's attunement. Your nervous system isn't just processing your surroundings, it's translating vibrational data. You're scanning frequencies, reading timelines, absorbing emotional undercurrents. And if you don't ground, if you don't clear, it builds up. That's why self-care for bridge chosen ones isn't optional. It's spiritual survival. You also experience time differently. Moments feel stretched or compressed. You sense things before they happen. Sometimes you know what someone's about to say or dream about them before they call. It's not coincidence that you're tuned into a higher bandwidth. You're not just reading the present, you're feeling the echo of the past and the pull of the future. That's why you've always felt like an old soul in a young body. Because you are. You carry codes from other lifetimes, other planets, other dimensions, and they're waking up now. Another undeniable sign, you get downloads, not just ideas transmissions. You'll be walking, showering, meditating, and suddenly a wave of clarity hits you. A vision, a knowing, a message that feels like it came from somewhere beyond the mind. And it's not vague, it's specific, detailed, urgent. You write it down, you act on it, and later someone tells you, that was exactly what I needed. You're not making this up, you're receiving. And the more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. And let's talk about relationships. If you're a bridge chosen one, your connections are complicated. You often feel like you're too much or not enough. People are drawn to your light, but they don't always understand your depth. You might have a history of being the healer in relationships, always holding space, always overgiving. And eventually, it burns you out. Until you learn this truth, you're not here to carry others. You're here to mirror them, and when you do, they either rise or they leave. That's not rejection, that's resonance in action. Finally, you feel the call, the quiet, undeniable pull towards something greater. But you might not have the full map, but you know you're not here to play small. The world tells you to shrink, to conform, to stay safe. But your soul, it's restless. It's loud, it's whispering, you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to bridge the gap between the seen and the unseen, between the old world and the new. And every time you deny that call, something inside you dies a little. But every time you answer it, even in small ways, you remember who you are. So let me ask you something now, something deep. What would your life look like if you stopped pretending you were normal? What would happen if you fully owned your multidimensional vibration, your role as a bridge, your sacred weirdness? How many lives could you touch? How many realities could you shift? What version of Earth could you help create? Because if you've made it this far, if you felt every word, then you already know you're not just visiting this world. You're anchoring a new one, and the signs have been with you all along. The veil between worlds, why bridge souls are chosen to anchor the new frequency across timelines. There's a reason you've always felt split between dimensions, but like one foot is rooted in this world, and the other is constantly reaching beyond it into realms the average person doesn't even believe exist. You've tried to be here fully, to commit to the routines, the structures, the expectations. But underneath it all, there's always been a flicker, a pulse, a whisper reminding you, you're not just here to exist, you're here to remember, to activate, and to anchor something ancient and future all at once. You are a bridge soul, and you were chosen for this exact moment in time. The veil between dimensions isn't a wall. It's a frequency filter. Most people live their entire lives tuned to the density of the 3D world, focused on survival, identity, achievement. They don't see the layers behind the illusion. But you were born with the code to pierce the veil. Not because you deserved it more, not because you're better, but because your soul asked for this mission. You volunteered to be a bridge between timelines, to hold the memory of the old Earth before the distortion and the vision of the new Earth that's still being born. You're not just sensitive to energy you translate it. You feel the echoes of ancient civilizations in your bones. You sense galactic frequencies in your dreams. You carry memories that don't belong to this lifetime, but they live in your body like sacred instructions waiting to be unlocked. And even when you try to forget, the veil thins. In nature, in silence, in sacred conversations you remember. You remember that we are not just physical beings having a spiritual experience. We are multidimensional creators having a human experience. And you are here to remind others of that truth. But anchoring across timelines is not a passive job. It will stretch you. It will break you wide open. Because to build a bridge, you must touch both ends. You must feel the pain of this world deeply enough to have empathy and yet hold the vision of what's possible so clearly that you don't collapse into hopelessness. That's why your life has been so intense. You've lived through trauma, loss, psychic overwhelm, emotional extremes not as punishment, but as preparation. The more you've felt, the more you've stretched. And the more you've stretched, the wider your bridge has become. You've probably noticed that you attract chaos and awakening in equal measure. But people come into your life and things start shifting. Truths are revealed, illusions break. Either they rise with you or they run from you. That's not a flaw of your energy. That's the function of your energy. You're not just here to make people feel better, you're here to make them remember. And that remembering can be uncomfortable. It can feel like loss. But in truth, it's liberation. When you walk into a room, you bring the frequency of what's coming. You carry the codes of the next reality. That's why you feel misunderstood. That's why people don't always get you. You're not a reflection of their past. You're a mirror of their potential. And that kind of presence is rare. It's disruptive, it's catalytic, but it's also sacred. Across timelines, there are versions of Earth that have already healed. There are civilizations that have already remembered the truth of unity, energy, creation, and consciousness. And you, yes, you are a vibrational ambassador of those worlds. You're here to weave that frequency into this one, through your words, your art, your healing, your presence, your choices. You don't need to shout it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to be it. And in doing so, you become a living transmission broadcasting across dimensions. But let's ground this in real life. Anchoring the new frequency doesn't mean you float in the clouds all day. It means you bring the sacred into the mundane. You bless your food while cooking. You speak truth in meetings. You set boundaries with love. You meditate between errands. You hold space for grief and joy in the same breath. You become the integration point, the place where spirit meets skin, where heaven touches earth. That's the real work. That's the bridge. So now I ask you, what would change if you stopped trying to fit in here and started owning why you came? What if your weirdness, your visions, your sensitivities, your deep emotions, what if all of it is evidence of your bridge soul mission? How would you walk differently if you knew that every time you chose love over fear, alignment over comfort, truth over performance, you were literally recoding the timeline? Because you are. You felt the veil thinning. You've seen the signs. You know the old world is dying, and as it does, the new one needs anchors. It needs people who are not afraid to be multidimensional in a 3D world. People who can hold the vibration of what's coming while still navigating what is. People who know that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect, it means being present. So if you've ever felt torn between dimensions, between logic and intuition, between the old and the new, it's not because you're broken. It's because you are the bridge itself. And every breath you take in alignment is another stone laid on the path between worlds. The frequency architect, how bridge chosen ones are rewriting reality through embodied vibration. Let's speak truth now, sacred, raw, unfiltered truth. You are not just reacting to the world around you. You are creating it, not from willpower alone, not from external effort, but from your embodied frequency. This is the hidden architecture most people never understand. But they think reality is fixed, that life happens to them. But you and I, we know better. We feel it in our bones that consciousness comes first, and what we call reality is just the echo. As a bridge chosen one, you are not only navigating timelines, you are rewriting them. Through your vibration, through your breath, or through your being. You are a frequency architect. Every thought you hold, every intention you set, every emotion you allow or transmute, it becomes a building block, a frequency pattern, a ripple that moves outward into the collective grid. And here's the wild part most don't realize: your frequency doesn't just affect the now, it reaches into the past and the future. You're not just healing your own story, you're altering ancestral templates. You're not just dreaming a better world, you're seeding it into form through your energetic signature. That's why the work of embodiment is the most powerful spiritual practice of all. It's not about escaping the body, transcending the pain, or floating above the chaos. It's about becoming a clear channel so that your frequency isn't distorted by fear, shame, or old programming. Because when your vibration is clean, when your field is coherent, you don't just influence energy, you command it. You become a tuning fork for truth. And everything around you begins to recalibrate. This is why people shift in your presence. Why they suddenly feel more open, more honest, more alive. It's not because you're preaching. It's because your nervous system is regulated. Your field is stable. Your heart is open. And that coherence, it's magnetic. It's healing. It's contagious. You don't have to say a word. You just have to be aligned. And that alignment becomes the architecture of new timelines. But let's be real, this isn't easy. You've probably felt the weight of this mission, the pressure, the constant inner work, the moments you just want to be normal again. But even in those moments, even in your doubt, you're still anchoring light. Because the frequency of surrender, of humility, of still showing up, that's part of the blueprint too. You're not here to perform perfection. You're here to embody presence, and presence is messy. It's human. It's divine. You've likely noticed that when you're out of alignment, everything feels off. The world doesn't respond the same. Opportunities dry up. People react differently. That's not punishment, it's feedback. It's your soul reminding you that you're not here to follow the old scripts. You're here to code new ones, and that coding happens vibrationally. When you embody trust, the universe mirrors it. When you embody truth, illusions crack. When you embody joy, not the fake, forced kind, but the grounded, radiant kind, you literally raise the frequency of the planet. Do you understand the power of that? You're not just manifesting for yourself. You're imprinting new possibilities into the field. You're collapsing outdated timelines and opening quantum doors. And the more aligned you become, the more precise your architecture becomes. That's when synchronicities accelerate. That's when miracles normalize. That's when time bends around your intention. Because now, you're not just reacting to reality, you're co-authoring it with the divine. But embodiment doesn't mean bypassing. It doesn't mean love and light all the time. In fact, some of the most powerful frequency upgrades come from moving through shadow with awareness. When you face your fears, your wounds, your density, not to fix them, but to feel them, you reclaim pieces of yourself that were fragmented. And with every piece you reintegrate, your vibration expands, and you become more whole. And wholeness is the highest frequency there is. So here's the question: what vibration are you architecting with right now? Is it rooted in fear or faith? Scarcity or sovereignty? Are you unconsciously building with old trauma patterns or consciously constructing with love, clarity, and purpose? Because the truth is, you're always creating. The only question is, what are you creating from? Being a frequency architect means you take radical responsibility. Not blame, not guilt, but sovereign awareness. You understand that your energy is your currency. Your attention is your offering. Your embodiment is your message. And when you bring all of that into alignment, not just in meditation, but in daily life, you become unstoppable. You walk into rooms and shift the entire atmosphere. Not because you say anything, but because you are something. You are the bridge between potential and reality. So, if you've been doubting your path, shrinking your power, or waiting for permission, this is your reminder. Your frequency is your legacy. Not your status, not your followers, not your achievements, but the energetic imprint you leave on every soul you touch. And the more you align with your truth, the more precise that imprint becomes. We are not here to escape the world. We are here to rewrite it from the inside out. And you, my friend, are one of the architects. The final activation, why the chosen ones must now rise into full visibility and embodied service. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when hiding is no longer an option. When the inner work has been done not perfectly, but deeply. When the codes have been remembered. When the sacred fire within can no longer be contained. That moment is not marked by lightning in the sky or a voice from the clouds. It's quieter, deeper, more personal. It's the moment you realize, I can't stay invisible anymore. And if you're reading this, then that moment is here. You've been prepared, initiated, refined. And now you're being called into embodied service. This isn't about preaching. It's not about claiming superiority or wearing a spiritual badge. It's about offering your frequency to the world in real time. It's about showing up exactly as you are with your gifts, your scars, your wisdom, and your wonder, and allowing your presence to become the transmission, not in secrecy, not in silence, but in visibility. And yes, I know, visibility can feel terrifying for the bridge-chosen ones, but you've spent lifetimes being punished, misunderstood, even persecuted for your light. You carry the cellular memory of times when your truth was dangerous, when your gifts were feared, when your voice got you exiled. And so, in this life, you've mastered the art of hiding in plain sight. You've become the quiet one, the observer, the behind-the-scenes healer. But that chapter is over. The world is starving for light. And your frequency is no longer meant to be protected, it's meant to be shared. You don't need to be famous, you don't need to be loud, but you do need to be visible. That means letting people feel you, hear you, see you. It means allowing your authentic self to take up space. It means speaking when your voice shakes, offering your medicine even when you're unsure how it's being received, trusting that the ones who are meant to feel it will not because of marketing, but because of resonance. Because your vibration is now the signal. And those who are tuned to the same frequency will find you through the field. This final activation is not about becoming someone new, but it's about unveiling who you've always been beneath the masks. It's about living from the soul, not the script. It's about choosing alignment over approval, mission over comfort, expansion over safety. And yes, it will stretch you. It will trigger every last remnant of your small self. But that's the point, because in the stretch, you shed the residue of your old identity. And in that shedding, you rise. You've already felt this. That pull to speak your truth more boldly, to create what's been sitting in your heart, to step into service in a way that's tangible, embodied, and real. That's not ego. That's your soul knocking. That's your multidimensional self reminding you, we didn't come here to watch, we came here to lead. Not from a pedestal, but from the center of the storm, from the edges of transformation, from the place where real change begins inside you. So the question is no longer, am I ready? The question is, am I willing? Am I willing to be seen in my light and in my learning? Am I willing to show up when it's inconvenient? Am I willing to trust that my being is enough even when the world doesn't give immediate validation? Because this is what the final activation requires: radical visibility, radical embodiment, radical trust. You are the answer someone has been praying for, not because you're perfect, but because you're present, because you've walked through fire and still carry water, because you've learned how to alchemize pain into power, because you've remembered your divine origin and stayed human enough to hold space for others. That is the bridge. That is the medicine. That is the work. So what now? Now you rise. Not later, not someday, not when it's more convenient. Now you speak, you create, you serve. You walk into the world like someone who remembers why they came. You become the prism through which new light shines. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. This is the final sign of a bridge chosen one. You stop waiting for the world to change, and you become the change frequency itself. You walk fully embodied, fully visible, fully activated. And you don't just shift timelines anymore, you build new ones with every breath. Welcome to your mission. It's already begun.